Hi, sixth graders, it's Mrs. Johnson. For the notes for 1.1, they're divided into two sections. We have part 1 and part 2. So part 1 is on motion and speed. Our objective for this is I can measure and calculate the speed of an object that is traveling in a straight line. Our essential question is, how do you find the average speed of an object? You should already have done your vocabulary prior to doing these notes. So if you haven't done that yet, you need to go back to the activity before this and complete the vocabulary. So it was either a foldable or an electronic foldable. Here's the vocabulary one more time. So position describes the location of an object. Reference point is a location to which you compare other locations. Motion is a change in position over time. Speed is a measure of how far something moves in a given amount of time. Average speed is a way to calculate the speed of an object that may not always be moving at a constant speed, and velocity is speed in a specific direction. Part A, how can you describe the location of an object? Well, first of all, you can describe it with a position. So this is the actual location of the object, and it's usually described by comparing its position with where you currently are. So I might say, what is the position of the carousel? So if we find the carousel on there, I may say, well, it's to the northwest of me. Or I could say it's in front of me to the left. Okay, but that would be describing the position of the carousel. We can also describe the location of an object with a reference point. And this is when the position is described by comparing it to the location of another object or place. So using the tigers as a reference point, where are the gorillas? And so if I was trying to figure that out, I might say it's to the northeast of, I could say the gorillas are to the northeast of the tigers. Or if you're at the tigers, they're to the right, kitty corner. You might describe it like that. So using a reference point is kind of like saying, if we're at school and we wanted to know where the high school is, okay, you might say to somebody, if they said, hey, where's Rogers High School? You might say, hey, do you know where the middle school is? And they would say, yeah. And you could just say, oh, it's just across 141st Avenue. So we use reference points all of the time. So we use a location that we know of, and we describe where it is in reference to that place. Motion is a change in position over time, and it's a change in position even if you don't see it move is evidence that the motion happened. So if I were to walk, if you guys were all working quietly in the classroom in your spots, okay, and I left the room for a minute to go talk to another teacher, and I came back in and you were all in different spots, okay, that would be evidence that you guys had moved. Motion had happened. Even though I didn't see you guys move, I knew that you did because you were in a different position than you were when I left. So we can know that something had motion just by a change in position. Oops. How is distance measured? So the way you measure distance depends on the information you want. So you can measure a straight line distance, which we know is often the shortest distance. We could measure the length of the path you must take. And that is more likely when you're talking about like driving or getting somewhere from point A to point B. Because if I want to drive to Target, I can't just go in a straight line in my car because I would drive over people's yards and houses and all of that. I need to follow the path. I need to follow the road. Okay. So same thing if you're biking to a friend's house. They might say, well, it's only 1 mile away, but if you follow the bike path, then it's going to actually be 1.2 miles, okay? And so looking at this maze on the picture on this slideshow, you can see that the distance between point A and point B, if we were to use a straight line, would be a lot shorter than the distance or the path that we actually have to take. And the standard unit of measurement that we use, remember, is the meter. D, what is speed? Speed is the measure of how far something moves in a given amount of time. So if I were to be driving from here, from Rogers Middle School to, I'm going to take a highway and I wanted to go down to Maple Grove, okay? So if I knew that it's, let's say, 10 miles to get there, okay? And it took me 10 minutes to get there, okay? I could measure my speed because I know how far I went. I went 10 miles and I went in 10 minutes, okay? So I'd be going like 1 mile per minute, right? Okay. Um, what is average speed? Speed is rarely constant. So when I'm driving down to Maple Grove, my speed, I'm not going to be going at the same speed the whole time because I have to stop at stoplights or I might have to speed up or slow down based on traffic. Okay, so speed is rarely constant. And so we often use average speed to calculate the speed of an object that may not always be moving at a constant speed. The same thing goes in the picture for animals, okay? When they're running and we talk about how fast animals can run, we're not talking about, they're not always running at that speed, but that is the average speed. They might need to slow down a little bit if they are crossing water or rocks or something. But we use the average speed to measure because it's easier for us to come up with a number then. So how do we calculate average speed? And this is what our task is going to be when we're working on our stations tomorrow. So speed can be calculated by dividing the distance an object travels by the time it takes to cover that distance. And the standard units will be meters per second. Okay, so the S stands for speed, the D stands for distance, and the T stands for time. So the equation that we'll use, and make sure you write this on your note sheet, is average speed equals distance divided by time. So speed equals distance divided by time. And you will always be able to use a calculator for this in science class. So let's try it. A penguin swimming underwater goes 20 meters in 8 seconds. What is the average speed? Well, speed is just distance divided by time. So my distance is 20 meters. My time is 8 seconds. So I just take my calculator and I do 20 divided by 8. And I get 2.5 meters per second. Okay, and so that is what you are going to be doing tomorrow. You're going to be practicing finding the average speed for the next couple of days, and then we'll finish up these notes later on this week. Have a great day.